Let's get you introduced to today's panel members. So I'll hand over to each of them. Ladies, if you could introduce yourselves, please tell us all a bit about your role and maybe how you got into the sector. And I'll start with Fiona, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for inviting me onto the panel this morning for Women in Cyber. I'm delighted to be here. Yeah, I've worked in information technology now for 34 years. 24 years of that was within the photocopier print industry on business development and sales. And it was a natural progression thereafter, working for an IT company, starting to sell things like antivirus. And then you start to hear about, you know, different companies having cyber attacks over the last, especially over the last kind of 10 years. It was an area that was affecting my customers, and I took an interest in it, started reading up more, and then it's a natural progression then to move from that into being an account manager within the cybersecurity industry. Thank you.
Fiona. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself and talk to us about how you get into the industry?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me today on the panel. My background has been computer science from the start and information technology specifically. And then it was, again, a natural progression going to cybersecurity and being kind of with the background of engineering and sciences. It felt like a right place to be, especially with, you know, at the early years that we started, we were not worried about cyber attacks as much and what can be lost in the process. Having said that, I have slightly diverted from the pure cybersecurity, I would say these days, as Securium is focused more on cyber safety, by the sense of protecting humans and individuals and businesses that are online. And not only it's the attacks to their machines, but to their individuals that can be hate or harm, and it can be distribution of content that can damage them. And of course, we have children that are the most risky and vulnerable group in online safety, online world, let's say.
Brilliant, thank you. Tayabba?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am Dr. Taya Banafis, the CEO and founder of CyberShell Solutions. My background is in ethical hacking, very exciting for me because I love this field. So my whole experience, I did my initial degree in software engineering, but since then my PhD in ethical hacking and being a part of Royal Society of Edinburgh Enterprise Fellowship and finishing my degree from Abertay. I always being in this industry now more than 7 years. Running my company, then my research idea convert into a very exciting cutting edge technology. So basically, as a CEO and of company, I worked as a trusted advisor for cybersecurity for the companies. So we work on sociology and physiology of the product. Like we are experts, we provide expert services encapsulated into software systems. We actually baked security into the software systems. So basically we deal with application security level security. Thank you.
Thanks, Tayabba. Kelly?
Hi there, my name's Kelly Morris. I'm Head of Client Strategy and Sustainability at Clearview Intelligence. Clearview is a data and technology business that focuses predominantly in the sort of transportation sector. I personally am not in a technical role, but diversity and inclusion is a key part of my role moving forward. So it is something that I'm very much interested in. From the Cyber Scotland perspective, I suppose that the hacking element and the whole cybersecurity is a major concern for us as a business as well. And from, again, the personal perspective, I spent nearly 5 years investigating serious crime on behalf of Crown Office. So I do have an interest in that side of things. From I guess one of the reasons I've been invited on here today, I suppose, is that I'm not your typical stereotype within the tech sector. So I actually joined the sector as a 40-year-old pregnant woman, which is not the typical route for most people. And also having ADHD and OCD and coming from a very working class background, again, not what people tend to think is within the tech sector. So hopefully able to quash some of those stereotypes today and try and find ways to encourage a wide group of people to join the sector.
Thanks, Kelly. I think it's fascinating to hear that, you know, that's four separate women all come from very different routes into the industry and have all done really well so far in their careers. So I guess thinking about that, can you ladies share how you found running a company, being an owner of a company, you know, being really senior, high up in a company in the sector? You know, have you found it plain sailing, or have there been challenges that you've maybe had to overcome? I think I'll direct that one to yourself, Tayabba.
Thank you, Nicola. There is a two parts for every coin. For me is, I would say nothing has come easy in your hand, especially for setting up a business. And looking my perspective, because I'm graduated from Abertay University, startup university, and then sort out a lot of things, and there is, and especially not being, I'm not saying, but I got huge support in Scotland. Especially in Scotland, we are not a huge big community, but the good thing is everyone knows everyone, so you always get a huge support and people always in favor of you doing well. Especially ScotlandIS, they always on my back for pushing me forward. Yes, you can do it. If there is some support, they make the introduction and everything. And these tiny things make huge difference in your day-to-day life when you are trying to win business. And especially coming from the researcher background, I would say there is a bit of gap, because academics work very different than the doing a business is a very different word. So I learned gradually these things. And I think so it's depend, because don't have industrial experience, you need some support always. And I think so I'm the most luckiest one in this scenario. I got huge support and help from different parts of Scotland. Even they know if they are looking for help, if this startup make huge difference. And that's why we are still up and running, and we got a number of clients as well. That's exciting part of our journey as well. And these rewards just keep you moving as well.
Good. And Anna, have you got anything that you'd like to share on that?
Yes, I too mean Taya join in a lot of experiences here, by the sense of coming from an academic background with an academic hat, walking into an environment which we don't have any idea. And also, I think doing a research and PhD in academia, it's a lot more balanced environment, in my opinion, than when you walk out as a female in cybersecurity area. You definitely feel the difference. And suddenly your gender becomes a topic, which previously, at least my experience, wasn't. But again, it was the same. It's the support you get. I want to say I have a hang of it, but I'm not sure I have. But you know, when you are tech by background, you leave whatever you're good at behind and you start doing whatever you have not done. So if other peoples are not going to teach you, you're going to be in trouble. And I'm grateful that I have a great team. Gordon is here today, and you know, with the leadership skills that he has, of course, he brings a lot to the table. I have a co-founder, which was with me from the university. So, and again, various programs that are there to help and support. And I guess on top of everything, I'm very grateful, because our work is online safety and security and works with children. It brings that extra element of understanding from families and parents and organizations, from policing environment, and we get that additional kind of support, even if it's emotional. you know, a word of encouragement that helps you kind of ease the process, or knowing that, okay, this is going to make a difference.
Yeah, it sounds like from both of you that it's been positive experiences. You're saying there that you've had lots of support and stuff within the industry. Not as many challenges. I don't know if any of the other ladies have experienced.
The difficulties are definitely there, but you want to focus on the positive ones. There are always going to be people who are going to judge you. You're always going to receive comments that the girls don't look techy enough. And I'm sure few of us have heard such comments. But the struggles you have to put aside and focus on what it is there and what you can change. And working for the future, because those judgments and words have come from years and years of stereotyping. It might be slightly difficult to change those, but if we create the path that is pure and now working for the future, we're going to have much easier for a kind of process for the next generation, I would say.
Thanks, Anna. Kelly,
Hi, Nicola. Yeah, I think so. I previously ran a business before, and then worked as a freelancer within the tech sector. I would say, you know, worked in very male-dominated environments my whole career. You know, nuclear, railways, aviation. You know, all been very male-dominated, and I have to say I'm delighted that I certainly don't feel I've experienced any sort of discrimination. In fact, lots of support and encouragement. And I think especially when you become a female business owner, I think there is nothing but support out there for female business owners, to be honest. I certainly feel it's a very welcoming environment. Everybody's pushing you forward, helps everybody meet all of their sort of criteria as well, if there seem to be supporting female businesses. So I always felt there was an abundance of support out there. I think though the real issue is more about how do we get women from other sectors into the tech sector at different stages of their career? Because I think, you know, setting up a business in any sector is relatively easy to do these days with the support. Not easy to do, it's very difficult, but with the support that's there. But it's that sort of missing piece of women across all levels of tech that I think we need to address. Lots of focus on STEM, which is brilliant. Lots of focus on universities and colleges. But how do we proactively get women who are working in roles that have the skills in other sectors and bring them into tech? And I think one of the big pieces around that is the misconception of tech as a sector. You know, everybody thinks it's this sort of Silicon Valley, everybody's joking about in hoodies and, you know, Converse trainers or whatever, Vans. And, you know, I think they think that the tech sector is this young, funky industry that is, if you weren't in it, you've missed the boat. And that's just not the case. I mean, the company that I work for, Clearview, they've been doing data and technology since the 70s, you know, and so there really isn't this this perception that you need to get in early or you need to be qualified. Absolutely you do for certain specific roles, but there's a number of roles in the sector that are open to people. So I think it's about breaking down those barriers and encouraging people to be brave enough to move in, whilst helping recruiters open up and move the goalposts a wee bit.
Fantastic, thanks, Kelly. In exploring one of our topics about neurodiversity as well today in the sector, how do you ladies see? I mean, obviously you mentioned yourself, Kelly, about having ADHD. You know, how do you see having things like ADHD, dyslexia, is benefiting you in your role? And I guess we'll start with yourself, Kelly, on that one.
I think as a sector, for me, I feel as if I've finally found the place where I can settle for a while. As I mentioned before, now I'm not a technical expert or I'm not a developer, I'm not involved in the software, any of that type of stuff. However, I do work with clients when they come to us with problems and they need solutions. And so that's kind of part of what my role is in terms of client strategy. Now I worked in railways and all sorts of other industries that take years and years. So anytime someone comes up with an idea, it takes 10 years to do a study about it, another 20 years to build the thing. And as a person with ADHD, I find that extremely, it it's quite boring for me. I need constant stimulation. I need constant learning opportunities. There needs to be something different in variety. So what the tech sector does, I think, for neurodiverse people is because everything moves so fast in tech, you know, no sooner have you come out with some sort of solution, the client, there's another issue arrives, the client needs something else added on. So there's a constant need for agility and new ideas, which is just, you know, it's important for people that are neurodiverse to be able to work in a sector like that. There's a lot of synergies. In terms of the benefits that neurodiversity can bring to the sector, I suppose it's the whole sort of innovation, positivity, I guess hyper-focus is maybe one of the things. You know, I very often spend days where I will work for 24 hours solid, not so much now with a 9-month-old, but prior to him being born, I would sort of work almost 24 hours solid on something because I was completely focused on it. And I think the sector needs to be open to, you know, you have your 9-to-5ers that are very concentrated and they arrive on time and they leave on time and they're very focused at what they're doing. They're reliable, dependable, steady. And then you get your ADHDers like me who maybe work flexible hours where sort of peaks and troughs, but you get something very different from us in terms of ideas and solutions. Equally, there needs to be a balance for people like us. You know, if you had a company full of ADHDers running around, there would be lots of great ideas, good chat and positivity, but you wouldn't always get things over the line. So you do need that balance of, you know, the completer finishers. I certainly work very well with a lot of people with autism. A lot of people who are autistic are very good at detail and sort of repetitive tasks and processes. And that's a really good balance for me. So I think the tech sector is a fantastic sector for anybody with neurodiversity, anyone who considers themselves neurodiverse or neurodivergent. And I think the sector really will benefit from increasing the number of people that they bring in from that sort of characteristic, if you like.
That's fantastic. Sounds really encouraging. And what about yourself, Anna, if you don't mind me asking you as well about this topic? Am I right in saying that you've got dyslexia? How do you feel that kind of maybe works well for you in your role? Or
Oh, exactly as Kelly said, it's an industry which is made for people who think different, I believe. I didn't know I have dyslexia for many years. I struggled with it and I got on with it. However, coming to computer science and cybersecurity and tech, I've realized that was actually a positive thing. As somebody with dyslexia, you have the tendency to see patterns a lot. And both of our solutions look at behavioral patterns of activities and behavior, to which it was a perfect spot for me. And also I realized I like to see a world like a puzzle. You cannot have all the pieces in the same shape. In order for them to hold together and create a full picture, you need everything from every background and type and diversities. That is not only, regarding to dyslexia or ADHD or any of these things. Sometimes people forget that there are left-handers out there for schools when it comes to exams. So, you want to have open mind for differences because those all bring colors. And those differences of shapes makes everything sit together. If you look right, there is always possibility for everybody to be involved in specific tasks that they can kind of grow in, that they can be fit for that purpose and they can bring the best benefits both to themselves and to everybody else.
Yeah, we've got a few people in the audience agreeing as well, and saying absolutely being older, having been neurodivergent or whatever, is definitely bringing balance to the sector. So really, really interesting and inspiring there. So thank you, ladies. I think we'll move on. The next question is about diversity. So obviously diversity is wider than just, focus on inclusivity for females. How do you feel the sector benefits from training and recruiting international students? Maybe individuals where from multicultural backgrounds or where English isn't their first language. And I guess I'll put that one over to yourself, Tayabba?
I just want to add, it's really encouraging, and it shows how strong and powerful, like listening Kaylee and Anna, is just like, it's give you so much strength, because there is always something you are not good. You do so many good things, but there are so many things you're trying to learn and do. And these are the things, even sometimes you have, because when you are running a business, you are not managing one thing, you are managing so many things, even sometimes micromanage, sometimes managing your people who are part of your company. And I always believe they are as a part of my family. So, and as being a female founder, you have some emotional things going on in your life as well. And especially in this regard, I really appreciate my non-exec director, Dr. Jamie Grave. He always support me. He always on my back. It's okay. It will be fine. You know how to do. What do you think? What's your intuition? Like these are the things which always think you, okay, how we can manage. And coming from the background, like, which is like, I started my journey. I never thought I will be at the end or at some stage in my life. I'm running this company right now. I started as a doing MSc, then PhD, might be just ending somewhere as a lecturer or something like this. Being a, I'm not from here, coming from Pakistan. It was, but I never, especially in Scotland, I think so, I never realized this is not where I belong from. It's such a good and welcoming community. It's if you are adding value in the form of your whatever you're doing, people always welcome you. If you are solving their problems, you are understanding what their need is, and you are trying to help them to resolve, then I think so this the front sketch goes out. It doesn't matter you are male or female. It doesn't matter you are belong from some specific religious background. It's just what you are doing. If that is adding value in the community, it means it's really help you out. So for example, CyberShell, through this whole platform, I really want to spread the words, because as a part of CyberShell, we provide cybersecurity awareness training, and we are very keen to give special access to those organizations or those groups which are providing the diversity for the women who are trying to change their career coming into the cybersecurity. So we provide a bit of technical initial training. If you think we can add value, just feel free to speak with me or just drop us an email.
Thanks, Tayabba. Nana, do you have a view on that question?
I'm trying to find the mute button. Oh, well, I speak 3 languages in a day at least. I have a family. When we gather, it's a whole confusion of, do we kiss 1, 2, or 3, depending on the background of the person, or they would be offended. But I guess growing up with that, you start learning that about people, about what they like. You kind of develop more flexibility over. There is not only a one right way of doing something. You also learn about similarities of what makes us human. You find differences that add spice. So from my perspective, I'm lucky that I can call 4 places home. And as a result of that has been the support of everybody else around. And I like to make that the same when people join our company. We work with natural language processing, which is kind of looking at various languages. And there was a point which we had somebody from Syrian background and an Indian and a Belgian, and with myself, we were able to look at, in between ourselves, we were able to check 10 languages. And that was just amazing because, just having the capability to do so within a team, from work perspective and also from the personal perspective. The one more thing that I have to say is that the coding and the tech world is a very safe place to start as well, because everybody is speaking languages which are not the actual language. You know, you use coding as your language to communicate, and that is always a safe place to start. There is no judgment there. The logic is completely different, and a lot of people will speak those languages much better than the other languages. So I find it a very open-minded place and very encouraging place.
Brilliant. I guess it's all about variety, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic, thanks. And then the last question I guess I've got just now really is for yourself, Fiona. And I'm wondering if you can talk the group today through if there are other ways within the sector that we can support women that bring years of experience particularly.
Thanks, Nicola. Yeah, I work for Sapphire, a cybersecurity business, and I'm very lucky that they have a great culture. And I think that culture is a brilliant place to start with any business. So where we talk about women and their place in protecting women during their careers, it really is something that matters. One thing that I wanted to talk about today, and it's something that we've been developing within our wellness plan at Sapphire, is to do with menopause. Now, menopause is something that affects all women. It's a global issue. It is a natural condition, and it usually starts from the age of around about 45. It's not something that lasts a week. It actually lasts about 10 years plus. So it's not something that we shouldn't, we really do have to take it seriously. And really, to be quite honest, it's an area that isn't talked about enough. There's, things going on with government. There's, companies are looking at different policies and things like that, but there's still just not enough being done at this stage. It really affects women throughout their careers. And I think, if we're talking about the tech industry, when a woman, goes through her career, possibly has children, comes back to work, they have a number of plates that they're spinning already. And then all of a sudden they get to an age where they haven't really been educated on it, and they hit the stage which is before menopause, which is called perimenopause. Now that can have a detrimental effect on a number of women. By having symptoms like brain fog, lack of sleep, hot flashes, going into meetings and feeling embarrassed because your whole body is just soaking with sweat. There's so many different symptoms that are attached to menopause. And I think that, within industry, we've got so many specialised women. We've got women in great positions, but that are fantastic at what they do. And if they were better supported during that period of their life, then we can see people moving into better positions, moving into CISO positions, moving up, getting promoted, keeping them in work. A lot of women actually give up work during that period of time. They don't know what's wrong with them. They might be off sick. So I think, to be better supported during that time. There's also a lot of misdiagnosis from doctors as well. So I think, if women are given something to help them through, HRT is something, an area which can certainly rectify a lot of the symptoms that women experience. But yet, I think after there was discussions 20 years ago with regards to cause breast cancer, it put on a number of women off. Now that isn't the case, because there's more reasons to take HRT than not, and it is very, very safe. But in this day and age, there's only 12% of women in the UK are actually on HRT, which is a shocking statistic. So we need to do more about how to look after ourselves. And, we've got to remember that menopause is a hormone deficiency. that's what it is. And if we can replace the hormones, we want to just, be able to work in harmony and be able to enjoy a happy life, which we can do. So I think there is, still quite an inequality of care out there. And government, although in 2021, the government had brought out a policy around women's wellness, it's still not, it's quite late to the game when you think about women have always had menopause, but at least something has been done now. But more definitely needs to be done in that area. And it would mean that we keep these specialised women within the industry, and they can work on and keep doing their job the best that they can.
Brilliant, thanks Fiona. And you're very lucky then, it seems like your organisation's obviously taking it seriously and writing it into your wellness plan and stuff.
Well, yeah, we've actually developed a menopause policy, which I know that a number of organisations are looking to do now. So I think the question really, is for many organisations is, is your company menopause friendly, and to be able to support women, because as I say, it is something that is going to affect all women at some stage in their life. And as I said before, some of the symptoms can be detrimental. The highest, age group for women in suicide is between 50 and 55. And I think that tells us something again. So let us do something about it. Let's talk about it more. Get government to do more. Let organisations look at menopause policies. And, we need the support of men as well. And we just need to be open and be able to talk about it more.
Yep, absolutely agree. One of our panel, one of our audience members has also put a wee comment and just saying that, again, agreeing critical that men understand this better, particularly in the workplace. So we do need to talk about it more. We need to get it out there. We need to make sure people are understanding the issue. But positive steps are being made, baby steps, albeit, but it does feel like we're starting to move in the right direction at least. So that's encouraging.
Nicola, can I just add a wee point on that?
Absolutely.
I think the menopause is absolutely critical that people are made more aware. I'm in a triple whammy at the moment. I'm going through perimenopause. I've got an 8-month-old baby and I have endometriosis. So at that time of the month for me is extremely difficult. But it's always been difficult my whole life. And a lot of the times when I was younger, I had to hide. I would be sitting in meeting rooms where I would be taking stabbing pains and tears would be literally rolling down my eyes and I would have to hide it or go and sit in a toilet next to a radiator and get into all sorts of terrible states trying to hide the way that I was, which meant then when I returned to work, I completely overperformed as a way of overcompensating and then knackered myself out again, a couple of weeks later. And actually, it's only now that I've got to this age that I'm able to openly say, funnily enough, oh, it's perimenopause, because that's almost acceptable now and people accept that. But what's never really talked about is before menopause, that women do have hormones, they have these sort of menstrual cycles and they do affect us. And I think we all need to stop pretending they don't. And we also need to give men a bit of credit. Most men either have sisters, mothers, girlfriends, wives, whatever. They have been through all of this. In fact, my husband lives through this stuff with me every month. So a lot of men know exactly what's involved. And it's about, us maybe just being a wee bit more open now and again. For example, there's sometimes events that come up, which I know are right around that time. And I've made the mistake before of pushing myself, going to the event, I'm chalk white, I'm absolutely sweating, my words aren't coming out, everything goes wrong, and then I end up going home in a panic that everybody thinks I'm terrible at my job and I'm going to get sacked, and I get into an absolute state for the next couple of weeks and months, when actually, see if I just said, I can't make that event now. And this is why I have a hell of a lot of respect for men a lot of the time, because if it was a man, certainly some of the men I know, they would just turn around and say, sorry, I can't make that event. They wouldn't give a 10-line explanation of why. They would just say, sorry, I'm not available that day. End of story. They wouldn't go, wouldn't make a fool of themselves, and they wouldn't be then, punishing themselves for it after. And I just think sometimes we have to be a bit more assertive with ourselves and we say, sorry, I can't do that. And and that's it. Or we do speak to a male colleague and bring them on board as supporters and stop assuming that they are going to be in some way against us for this type of thing. They all get it. I mean, the majority of them really do. So yeah, I think it's a knowledge thing, and we need to be much more open about it.
I think, Nicola, as well, we have to think about women's future health as well. So, you know, when women reach that time of going through menopause, if they don't do something like take a replacement, like hormone replacement, they have to think about things like Kelly just mentioned, osteoporosis. You know, if our bodies are not getting estrogen, it can cause osteoporosis. It can also cause heart disease and dementia. So there's a lot to be considered, but it really does go back to education. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Fiona. So that brings us to the end of the questions that I've got, Amy. I'm not sure if there's any that have been asked that I've maybe missed in the chat or have been put to you. You want to?
I mean, yeah, if anyone would like to ask a question, please just pop it in the chat. And again, if you want to send it to me anonymously, just send it to me. I will say as well, just on the topic, because we have a bit of time, what would your advice be for a young person, like a young woman who's wanting to get into the sector, who might not want to go to university? Like for myself, I dropped out of uni, and I just really didn't find that it was me, or, you know, the different routes in, but also for women that, you know, have spent half their life in, for example, like business or were a teacher, but now actually thinking they want to get more into cyber or into the tech sector. Do any of you have any advice on the different ways in, or what you suggest?
I think probably because I sort of came from that different route, Amy-Lou, I think so I think it's twofold, the approach to this. I think one is, you know, women and people generally, because I think the other side of this is the working class gap. You know, we need to really increase the representation of working class people in tech as well. Certainly where I grew up, going to university wasn't encouraged. It wasn't something that was ever suggested in the area that I grew up in. I left school at 15 with literally 0 qualifications, which is a real it's actually a real failing of the education system, to be honest, that happened. And so there's a whole sort of talent pool there sitting in that sort of working class sector as well, that doesn't maybe feel that tech is going to be relevant for them. People that don't, if they don't get into university or college, think that they've missed the boat and they're not able to get in. So I think the response to that is twofold. One, I think it's about women and people from different backgrounds being a bit more putting themselves out there. Don't be afraid to try and apply for a job in a sector where you don't have experience. I don't know any recruiter that if they receive a heartfelt application and CV, even if it doesn't tick all the boxes, if there's somebody there that you really spot a bit of talent and you see there's a transferable skill or there's a real desire to work in the sector, people are very often open to that. So don't always assume that you're up against people who are overqualified and always going to get you in. The other element to that is, I think the recruiters within the sector, we absolutely have to open the goalposts, you know, in order to get women in from those other sectors, rather than just saying we expect you to have X, Y, and Z or equivalent experience. We really need to be saying we would also actively encourage people from other sectors and industries that feel they have the transferable skills that could work, and then allow that person to come in and persuade you, because, you know, there's umpteen women working in sectors all over the country that could very easily slot into tech, whether they don't know anything at the moment, but give them a couple of months with, you know, Anna or Tayabba, and they could learn so much, and I'm sure that they would pick it up in a second, you know, maybe not to the extent of what you guys do, but you know what I mean. It's just getting people in over that initial hoop, and then spending the time to teach them and learn, and I think that's where we'll see the difference. So yeah.
Thanks, Kelly. We've got a couple of questions actually that have come through. So I'll start.
I just want to jump on board to what Kelly said as well. Amy, this is an industry where degree is not an important thing. We had a head of software engineering who was a 20-year-old university dropout, 20 years old. We couldn't even, well, 20 years and 6 months, we couldn't take him drinking with us after work. It's the interest, it's the knowledge if somebody wants to learn. And we also hired somebody who was a mature lady after having 2 kids for the first time coming into cyber, coding and cybersecurity environment. This is, I think it's much more forgiving and much more encouraging for the change of careers as well. Even if they're going to become a tech person. And of course, that, as Kelly was saying, there is a whole range of other skills that nevertheless a cybersecurity or a tech company needs. And there shouldn't be a fear of going into that world. We still do run businesses, we still have sales, we do still have business development. There is a lot that there is. And therefore, I would encourage anybody to consider it, regardless of the background, career, professional. Everybody has the skills that can be transferred one way or the other.
Agreeing, we've got a couple of questions around that, around sort of transferring. So people that are maybe, got a busy family life and they're working in one sort of industry at the moment and they're kind of moving across. A couple of the questions are around moving into project delivery. And the ladies are now keen to kind of move into cybersecurity and asking, what sort of views on that. So I don't know if anybody wants to answer. Obviously, there's a whole cybersecurity project delivery, within my organization, Virgin Money, we have a team of individuals that run our security program year on year. And so you need project delivery skills, project management skills for that. And that kind of gets you a foot in, I guess, getting you exposure to different cybersecurity tooling and different things that are being delivered that way. What's your advice, ladies, then, and somebody that maybe is working in law, for example, then just now and moving into project management, but really wants to get into cybersecurity? I guess I'll put that one to yourself, Anna. Do you want to answer that one? No.
So I can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think everybody, particularly these days, as tech world and online safety is and cybersecurity is growing, as mentioned before, there is a space for everybody. What I think is suitable for these environments is that most of the old version programmer view of things is that they're going to work at nights, they're going to work on their own hours. So growing from that, stereotyping even might not be a right way of presenting it, but there is a level of flexibility there that the work needs to get done. When it gets done, it's fine, which makes it very suitable for a lot of people with busy families that needs to do certain activities then in order to be able to pick up your kids, and then you're going to do the part that you're going to do whenever you're comfortable. And then coming from various backgrounds, everybody these day and age, you can't do anything without regulations and laws in place, no matter what you do. So the background of anybody who's coming from various experiences is going to be also very valuable for the sector. So I've saw some comments saying, people say you need experiences. There are a lot of courses these days that are accepted as a kind of industry standards that usually might help to open those doors. But also there are a lot of startups these days that would appreciate somebody with experience, with different experience, to come and help them do whatever they lack. And also as a kind of way of growing together, they're going to fill in the gaps that you have for your knowledge. So yes, it might have a little bit of a risk to it, but with all the support that startups are getting these days, I would say it's a viable route also to go into these industries.
Nicola, can I add a bit in Anna's response? So I know I want to give here a practical advice here. So for example, because as a small company, so we have some employees which have no technical background. You have to decide, you want to go in technical side or you want to help the experience you are bringing along. Learning cybersecurity and its background and these things are not difficult, because when you start working in an environment, everyone is a techie and you are doing project management, work as a project manager. These are just switching the words. Otherwise, things will be same. But if you want to learn a technical bit, then my advice is, yes, you have to take some baby steps to learn basics and then see how you are comfortable with those. If you think you have still interest and you think you can do it, then you have to go the next further steps, which make you qualified for doing that part of the job. But if you think, for example, we have so many people, they have no technical background in the cybersecurity, but they are brilliant project manager. And they are bringing that experience and implementing that in our processes and procedures, and we are getting fabulous results. So two things, what you want to do, technical side, or you are bringing your expertise in cybersecurity. And then you have to see which route is suited for you. But never shy to ask, you know, if you don't ask, you never will be get anything. That's my, so.
No, that's some great input. And I think that, yeah, so we've got a question here about somebody that's applied for a couple of roles. They've been in risk management for a number of years and they're wanting to get into cyber. They've applied for a couple of roles and they've been told that they need a bit more experience. They're saying they're undertaking a few courses and they've got a mentor in the field. So that's all great stuff. And I think we need to remember that within cyber, there are so many different roles out there. So to your point, Tayabba, if you're not coming from maybe a very technical background, if you've been in risk management for a number of years and maybe don't see yourself as being technical, then maybe you could consider looking at roles within the kind of governance, risk compliance type side of it. There's so many roles out there that are involved in strategy, education and awareness, consultancy, cyber consultancy, and giving advice, looking at, assessing risk, cyber risk and stuff, supplier risk management. There's a number of roles out there that are maybe not deemed as being technical roles, but would certainly get you a foot in the door. And then, as Tayabba says, it's kind of baby steps, then looking at where do you want to go next, and then what sort of technical training or support might you need to get there. So, as the ladies have said, never be discouraged. There's various routes to moving into the industry that you can take. I think having a mentor is a great idea for them keeping you right, but it's really kind of just having an eye on the ball. Where do you want to get to? And then, taking some small steps to help you along the route. One of the other questions we've got just now is around gender equality, I guess. And the question is, what, in your view, what is the success criteria for gender equality in cyber? What is the thing that when you see happen, you maybe say, we've made it? So I guess on that one, I will direct that one. Fiona, do you want to jump in and answer that one? Do you have a view maybe on that?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. I think that, we live in a multicultural, non-binary world now, and I think that as companies, I mentioned culture earlier on, the acceptance of these people coming on board. But I think, when you say we've made it, I think that apply for the jobs, as Anna mentioned earlier on, you don't need to have that experience, if you like. Go for it, go for the jobs, apply for it. And once you're into the industry, if you're working for organizations, hopefully that are going to support you on your journey as well, that that's you're there to stay, if you like.
Can I just add, Nicola, into that in terms of the gender equality piece? So in our organisation, 23% of our workforce is female. which is actually a really strong number considering we work in technology and transport, which is obviously very male dominated in the transport sector. So 23 is a really good number. What's not great is in terms of our software developers and product managers and designers, that's not where the females are sitting. They're sitting in all those other roles that we discussed that we all know about. You know, you go into all these companies, your HR, your finance, your business development, it's all sort of females, marketing. So where we really need to focus our attention is how do we start getting women into those tech roles? And I think, you know, one element of that is, are there enough of them coming out through universities and colleges? I think the answer is no. So there's obviously efforts getting put into STEM and focusing on young people, which is great. But that there really does need to be another targeted effort as to how can we get some women to even consider transferring across, maybe even almost as apprentices, if you like, if they want to switch career and making that route open to them. You know, here's a part-time job working with a developer, learning the skills as well as maybe going to college a couple of days a week might be interesting to some women. But I do think, I really feel for the lady that put the comment on about the fact that she works in risk management. I think risk management, project management, supply chain management are all three brilliant types of careers to follow if you're the type of person that likes to switch into different sectors, because those careers will get you into any sector. The difficulty is, I would love to sit and say that recruiters really need to be much more open. Every sector thinks theirs is the most important sector in the world and they all want experience. So when I worked in railways, it was it's only rail people we want, and it's a very difficult sector. And when you work in nuclear, it's really important here. Everybody thinks their sector is the most important and the most critical in the world. And actually, most people's skills can transfer across all sectors. So I do think there needs to be a much more focus on recruitment, and even in the advertising, and maybe stipulating exactly what it is you're looking for. So for us, we will recruit often for a role where we do need somebody with sector experience, because that person we are actually about to put straight onto a client job, and our client won't pay us unless that person's got 10 years of client experience. So that's why we need to recruit a person with sector experience. But there's maybe other jobs where we're just looking to bring somebody else in to start filling up. That's the kind of job where we really should be explaining this role is open to people with other sector experience. I think it's important we put that on advertisements. Otherwise, we're wasting people's time who are trying to transfer across after all that effort just to tell them you don't have sector experience. I mean, that's just that's a nonsense, and it's not fair.
That's a great point. And do you know what, you kind of led on nicely. There's a question here that somebody's asking, saying they're is it a fourth year?
I just quickly wanted to add something regarding that question, if you don't mind. From a woman in the cybersecurity and tech background, I think I would think we made it if when I get applications and CVs for software developer, at least one of them would be a woman. So at each round, I would actually be able to interview somebody. That means we're getting somewhere. I would like to see places where a tech girl or lady is not judged by their look for their technical knowledge. We have worked with people who, because we have co-founders, that our company as a co-founder would go, one is beauty, another one is the brain. I don't want to listen to things like that. So if these things are stopped, I think we'll make it. I want to see when I go to university, when I used to be as a teaching assistant, when you studied a master's degree or undergrad, you see at least over 20% female in the class. I want to see more games and toys that are towards STEMs. So I think once I see those, I'll think, oh, maybe we're making it.
Cool, thanks, Anna. We've got a question here from a fourth year criminology student, and she's really keen to get into cyber and tech. She's asking, what do you suggest is best to get hands-on experience or progress into a master's in IT? I'll direct that one to yourself, Tayabba.
For me is two things, because again, I'm coming back here on the same point. Practical experience is not practical experience, it's just like field experience is very important. if you can do part-time or evening basis or on weekends, because tech companies, we work 24/7. It's honest here, especially startups. Even we never shut down on weekends as well. If you think this is adding real value, just drop me an email. To be honest here, we are happy because we always short in having more hands on a work, always better 4 hands than 2, and companies love to have these internees because they add real value in our day-to-day process. And we learned so many things from this new lot of people coming along with so much energy and with new techniques to resolving our problems, which we want someone to look after for us and doing these sort of jobs. So always field experience is key, especially in our sector, because we have so many employees. They don't have exact degrees, but they are doing a job which is way beyond we are expecting them, because they learn, they get some time to learn that one and move on for that one. The other thing I just want to add here, so we have some specific there are some basics which you must know if you want to become a techie person. That is a basic. But I scrolling down the question, there is a one question, what recommendation or courses? So if you know the basics of programming languages, that's enough. Then we provide some cybersecurity awareness training, even for external companies or any company who's interested for having, especially for women, because everyone is equal for us. But as a female founder, when every time I got a CV or any call from female, oh, we wanna need help or this one, I never say no, because I thought there is always opportunity. And especially you can speak in 4 sitting software developers male, and you got 1 female face, not only you are the only person female. Oh, that makes you so happy. So that's my personal experience. So that's my advice.
Thanks, Tayabba. And I guess last question, really, probably that we'll get a chance to answer, is around personal brand. Somebody's asked the question, do you think personal branding is important? That's a good question, and I'll put that one to yourself, Kelly.
I don't know, because I think just when we talked about menopause and stuff there, Fiona, as well, I think your personal brand varies from day to day. Sometimes I can be on a meeting and I'm completely and utterly on it and all over it and in control, and then another time I can do a Teams or a Zoom session, whatever, and I am flapping about like some sort of person that doesn't know what the hell they're doing or where they've just woke up. So personal branding for me, I don't know. I think it's all about reputation, isn't it? Credibility, attitude. I think that's more, and I think that's what the other ladies were saying as well, is that even somebody that doesn't have maybe sector experience, if you're coming with that, attitude where you're open and honest, you want to get into the new sector, you're willing to take whatever training and support they advise, and even reaching out to the ladies that are, really in the bones of the cyber sector there and asking for their advice, because they can point you in the direction of the training to take. They can probably open doors in terms of, even if they don't have jobs or roles, they can introduce you to other people that might do. And so I think, that's probably all part of it. I mean, personally, and I'll focus on the people that don't have experience and don't have the qualifications, I guess. But I think as well, sometimes, even if you're open about that in a CV and you explain that that's what you're looking to do is transfer across and you're willing to do any additional training, and also maybe just highlight in the CV the whole point, aware of the sort of low numbers of females in the sector and the push in the sector to increase this, just as a wee reminder, that might always help. Another thing as well, so there I've lost my point that I was going to say, which will be familiar to Fiona as well. But yeah, so I think another thing that came up really was that sort of taking a jump in salary and moving across maybe to a new role or a new sector. And I think that is something that everybody needs to consider, and it's a compromise you maybe need to make regardless of what sector you're jumping into. What I would say is, though, so I've certainly taken a jump in the negative direction in terms of salary moving into this role. However, you've got to balance these things up sometimes, and you've got to weigh up cash versus culture. And having found an organisation in an industry where I can be my sort of creative, quirky self, and as the ladies said, it is 24/7. don't take that to be frightening, as you would be moving into an industry that's on the go all the time. You're going to be under pressure. That's not what I think the ladies are alluding to with that. What it means for me personally, as a mum of 2 children and working full time, I really get to move my hours around the whole week as and when needed. So I don't need to be at certain client meetings 3 times a week. I can work on stuff in the evening and the weekends when suits. So that 24/7 work culture is actually really, really beneficial when you're going into an organisation that's honest about that culture and allows you to do it flexibly. Far better than getting into organisations that pay you 9 to 5, don't talk about 24/7 work culture, but actually drive you like a horse in terms of work every day of the week anyway. So I think there's, you know, sometimes a compromise, and for me, less money, great culture, stimulation versus slight boredom, it seems to be working. So yeah, I would definitely recommend going for it and don't hold back.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies. That was a great chat today. We got through quite a few questions there. Hopefully we answered most of them. I'll go back and have a look at any we've maybe not answered and try and do put something in the chat. But for now, I'm going to hand back over to Amy. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So now we're going to lead into Cheryl and Susie. Susie will be running a spotlight talk, so I know she's got a presentation for you all. And then we'll have some time just after the talk for a final Q&A session, and Rebecca and Emily will just be closing. So if there's anything you want to find out more about women in cyber, we can give some info then. So I'll hand over to you, Cheryl, to introduce Susie.
Thank you, Amy. Can I just say that I'm delighted to see the amount of comments coming through of people looking to reskill in cyber. I think that's just fab. From a personal view, that's what I did. I retrained in my late 20s to join cyber. And coincidentally, Susie, who we've invited along today to do a talk, she's one of our 2nd year ethical hacking students, and Susie is retraining to join cyber. So I will hand over to you, Susie. Thank you.
Hello, sorry, I got overexcited with sharing my screen. I'll just get my presentation up and running. Can everyone see? There we go. Okay, hi everyone. I am Susie and I'm a mature student in my 2nd year of ethical hacking, like Cheryl just said. I was going to give a quick definition of what ethical hacking actually is. So we are the good guys. We will hack into a system legally to highlight security vulnerabilities. This is in order to prevent malicious hackers compromising an organization. So it's really to help enhance the security posture of that business. So ethical hackers are sometimes using the same tools that malicious hackers would be using, but for a completely different objective. So I also work as an ethical hacker for the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. So SBRC is a not-for-profit organisation that helps to prevent Scottish companies from being susceptible to security compromise through education, skills and training. And part of my job is threat intelligence, which I really enjoy. So threat intelligence, this involves keeping up to date with the latest cyber attacks, being aware and mapping advanced threat actors, what their motivations and tactics are. And this can lead to a better way of protecting businesses from their attacks. So a work colleague of mine has a great analogy that is like knowing mass murderers are on the loose. One uses a gun, the other uses a knife, and another uses a hammer. So by being able to know their methods of attack can build a stronger defense. And most importantly, to disseminate those threats when appropriate through threat intel blogs to the general public. So SBRC, this year SBRC launched an app, which was very exciting. And this means that we can put out threat intelligence and topical cyber blogs in real time. So it's to keep the general public up to date as possible. And we also have a monthly threat bulletin to inform about new patches and updates that are available. So SBRC offers executive training to help organizations' security framework. And on the website, there's a ransomware guide, and just remembering that prevention is always better than cure. And we also have an incident response helpline, which I'm also part of. And this is really open to the general public. in terms of it doesn't have to be just small businesses concerned that they might be victims of ransomware attacks, but people can call up about any form of compromise. So it could be a business email compromise and even up to cyber stalking. So we also work with Police Scotland so that either we can refer the person to them and Police Scotland can refer people to us. So when I talk about incident response, if a company gets hit by a ransomware attack, the protocol is to get in touch with some form of incident response team, who are a team of very skilled people that can help a business get back up and running as soon as possible. However, commercial incident response is on average about £1,000 a day, and that's really like the low end of the scale. So this slide is really demonstrating the process to show why it's so expensive, because so much work goes into incident response. So SBRC does not offer commercial incident response, but what we are trying to achieve is to help small businesses get connected to the right resources to keep costs down as much as possible. So SBRC has trusted partners that we would recommend if the situation warranted it. So the main premise is to have a trusted source of cyber advice and support to the general public. So SBRC also provides another service called Exercise in a Box. And this is where staff members of a company get taken through some form of cyber attack to find out how well prepared they are and how the business would run if it had been compromised. And the whole point of this exercise is to highlight any blind spots and offer resources that could help strive for better security practices. And the most popular event has been ransomware. And it has been a great experience to be able to see how well prepared some companies are, but some companies perhaps weren't so prepared. And unfortunately, it still stands that humans are the weakest links in the security chain. And it only takes one employee to click on a dodgy link and an entire network can come down. So it turns out that humans are more vulnerable than computers are. So it doesn't matter how great your firewalls are, your antivirus, or how fantastic your detection systems are, it still boils down to that one person being fooled by a very convincing malicious link. So ransomware continues to be the biggest threat to businesses, with phishing attacks being the #1 vector for this to happen. So this graph is just showing the steep incline of payments from ransomware attacks over the years, and it's a trend that's predicted to keep going up. And this is showing, this graph is taken from the government's report on security breaches, which clearly demonstrates the scale of the problem. Because of the severity of this problem, cyber training for staff has become an absolute necessity. So by now we should all be very aware about long passwords. The longer and more complex they are, the longer it takes a hacker to create a password, and using multi-factor authentication. This is all fantastic. However, with every step of defense, there will always be malicious hackers trying to circumnavigate it. And it's also to remember, malicious hackers are lazy. So this has spawned a new phishing attack. So it's the double-pronged phishing attack. So where basically an employee is phished with a clearly dodgy phishing email. And because they're so well trained in security now, they follow the protocol of contacting their IT department to notify that there's a dodgy email going about. The malicious hacker then sends a very convincing email to the employee, mimicking the IT department, to thank them for their diligence and to click on a link that will direct them to what looks like a Microsoft login page. So because the employee's guard is down, because they feel they've followed the training, identified the threat and followed the protocol, they feel like they've done their part. This is not a legitimate site, and the malicious hacker will get the username and password of that employee when they attempt to log in. So the whole reason I'm bringing this up is to point out that cyber training cannot be static, and it has to evolve as the malicious hackers' attacks and techniques evolve. So just briefly looking at trends in cybercrime to watch out for. Unfortunately, remote workers are still very much being targeted and will continue to be a target with attacks like the double-pronged phishing. And mobile malware is on the rise due to everyone's lives being connected to their smartphones. and things like banking Trojans are also going to increase. And the Internet of Device things are riddled with security vulnerabilities and will be a massive source of compromise. And then geopolitical issues. So much has happened in the last 2 years and currently, and malicious hackers are extremely opportunistic and will not let any crisis go to waste. So over the lockdown, it really made me think what it takes for a society to function. And I came up with the 3 pillars of education, healthcare, and the economy. If you take one of those pillars away, it all falls down. So it has really redefined what national defence means and why it is imperative that these 3 pillars are ring-fenced with everything a nation has to be resilient to the never-ending cyber attack. These problems are not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's not all about doom and gloom, it's about problem solving. So looking at cyber in Scotland, I think it's very important to get as many people into cyber in one way or another. I think a focus on coding and cyber activities starting at primary schools and greatly encouraged at high schools, with a focus on cyber careers, and also that Police Scotland come in for talks to warn about the dangers of organised crime and the dark web. I think some cyber skills for young kids to teenagers would be fantastic. And obviously the amazing ethical hacking degree at Abertay, and retraining the over 25s with a condensed 2-year course to get into the industry. I think psychological maturity is a great advantage in cyber to deal with high pressure situations. And I think it's a demographic that deserves investment in, through education and industry recognised qualifications so they get their foot in the door. So then looking at careers in cyber, not everything involves coding and maths, which seems to kind of put, I think, a few people off. So there's so many different directions to take and not all of them involve coding. I think it's a good idea to be able to read code, but don't have to be a coding ninja. There are a lot of other options. And Police Scotland definitely need help because of the scale of cybercrime. They need funding to grow their cyber force to even come close to tackling problems. And other jobs like delivering cyber training will be in great demand. So basically, it's about communicating the extent of how much this industry has grown and will continue to grow, and the jobs that come with that. And I think that needs to be conveyed a bit more, that it's worth either retraining, but definitely for young people to get into coding at a young age, because it's not so daunting then, and it's a great skill to have. And then the fantastic CyberQuarter. So we have the very exciting CyberQuarter in Dundee, and it's really a home for cyber in Scotland. And this really is an amazing opportunity for organisations and Abertay, and just creating amazing opportunities for students to get experience, is giving innovation a chance to go through new cyber startups. And it is very exciting to have so much going on in one building. And lastly, but most importantly, women in cyber. So it's never been a better time to be a female in cyber. And the tremendous Cheryl and I have been trying to get started the Women in Cyber chapter in Abertay. So we have a small group of ethical hacking girls, and they've been going into schools to give hacking presentations. So we have great plans for the future. So even though there are many challenges ahead of us, I think this is a great time for innovation and collaboration. And I do think the future is bright. So thank you for listening, and any questions?
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl and Susie. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop it in the chat. Tayabba?
Oh, I just wanna, well done, very good presentation, Susie. It's just brilliant. I'm just wanna say, oh, you guys are doing well done. And the only thing if you put a link for who are interested to join the chapter, so because I'm in conversation with Cheryl for part of that cybersecurity chapter as well. It's very important if we get things done. So that's fab. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So if anyone has any questions for Cheryl and Susie, pop it in the chat. Just in general, how do people get involved with the CyberQuarter? And has it officially launched? Can you tell us more?
Yeah, sure. So the CyberQuarter, it is due to open at the beginning of April. Construction work on the building is coming to an end. Me and Kira had a little tour of the building yesterday, which was fab. Anyone that wants any information, wants to have a chat, please feel free to reach out to me. At this moment, we are still looking for founding partners for the CyberQuarter. We are looking for startups, we're looking for scale-ups. Anyone that wants involved, please just reach out to me and I'm happy to have a chat. With regards to the student chapters that we are setting up at Abertay, there will be more information available on that soon. Yeah, anyone that wants to get in touch, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to chat.
So we have another question here. Is the CyberQuarter open to give experience to criminology students?
Yes, that is something that is on the cards. Criminology and cybersecurity are very closely related. We've got a good criminology course at Abertay. We've got our own department there, and that is definitely something that I'm looking to do more work in.
Great, thank you. Has anyone else got any other questions? Maybe with any of the panelists?
This is just a random question, Susie, I suppose, and Cheryl, just as someone that's not involved in it, but is there any sort of criteria that people need to meet in order to enter into the sort of ethical hacking? And I'm meaning from the perspective of, you know, if you spend 2 or 3 years learning how to hack and then you decide at the end that you don't want to be quite so ethical, you know, so almost training criminals and giving them qualifications for it. So how do you combat that kind of
Well, yeah, well, to date, so I think the ethical hacking course at Abertay has been running for about 10 years now, and no one's in prison. None of the students
have too good. You've trained them too well.
None of the students have went down the black hat hacking route. So that is good news. For me personally, I came from like an office background, so it was bookkeeping, accounting. I had no experience, no techie experience. I couldn't code. I then jumped into college, jumped into university, learnt all those technical skills. I did go into industry as a security engineer for a while, but I'm now back as a business development manager. I'm not in a techie role at all. So yeah, it just, you go wherever the job takes you. For me personally, it's always been the human aspect for me. I learnt the technical skills because I thought that's what you have to do. That's how you need to get into cyber. How wrong was I? The soft skills that I had were transferable. A lot of the students that I graduated with, they've got excellent technical skills. They can't have a conversation. They can't look you in the eye. They can't write a document. So it is all these types of transferable skills that can come into cyber.
And I would also say that I'm a mature student and I'm in with like 20-year-old boys who are absolutely terrified of me. So like they've got no social skills and it's like their interaction with females are probably very like limited. But I have to say, like, I think they're all such a passionate bunch of young adults, and that's right through the whole 4 years that I've never looked at anyone, and I'm a very suspicious person thinking, oh, you're going to have to do something really shady. Everyone seems to be so passionate towards this that I don't think like we have to really worry to a certain extent, because I think we all have to sign non-disclosure agreements to say that we'll not obviously break the law. And I think that's continually just assumes that if you do break the law, you're off the course. You've basically ruined your career before you even have started it. So it's that idea about self-motivation. Do you really want to do something stupid and ruin everything, or just be a decent human being? So
and that Susie's where that personal brand piece comes back in, isn't it? Because I suppose people thinking about getting into cyber and ethical hacking, if your prospective employer then goes and checks out your social media, sees some crazy stuff that you're saying or supporting, then you're probably not going to get that type of job, because ethical hacking is such an important role, and it has to be about the right type of person as well. So yeah, maybe that's where that personal branding piece was coming from.
And also just one last thing to go on about it, but I really, really think it's very important for Police Scotland to go into teenagers, because they are so vulnerable. And I don't think, like being a mature student, I really know who I am, and it would take a lot to influence me. But being 14, 15, 16, when you have access to things like the dark web, you're getting access to these tools. You don't actually even need any technical skills or know how to do it. And you can cause so much damage and have no idea what you're doing. And I feel like they need to go, and it is a little bit like being terrified not to do it. But I feel like if Police Scotland come in and say, this is the reality of what will happen, it's basically organised crime. And once you cross that line, these people know where you live, they know where your family live, to make it really, really clear. Like, this is not a fun path to take. There are horrible consequences that sometimes you can't come back from. And I just feel like they are such a vulnerable group that they really, really need to have that wake-up call to kind of be like, here's real life and it's not pretty.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question, and then I'll hand over to Rebecca to close. So if anyone's got any more questions at all, now is your chance to shine. No, okay. So Rebecca, if it's okay, I will hand over to you to close, and just let people know a bit more about women in cyber if they're not aware. And
yeah, just trying to work my headset. Absolutely. So yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming today. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I think it's been really great engagement from everyone on the chat and asking questions and things. Thanks also to all of our speakers. It's been absolutely great having you participate. Yeah, like we mentioned at the start, we've got this Women in Cyber in Scotland group, and it's really set up to try and kind of connect everyone together, have different events that we can, all learn from each other, and, whatever the topic is really. So please do reach out if you've got any questions, or if you're not part of it at the moment and you want to be, please do just get in touch, and everyone's welcome. So thank you very much.